closing time. Open all the doors.
It's closing time. Jupiter the Destroyer.
It's closing time, so just listen and learn. See, the sharper your game, the more money you earn. Ray's got the question, so hurry up before you missed out. Cause JD's dropping knowledge like the textbook slipped out. You need advice, you need guidance. On the way to appointments in the streets driving. Or even if you're doing fine, you're just working on the grind. When you look at your clock, you will see that it's closing time.
Welcome back to another edition of Closing Time with JD Diskin. My name is Ray Lodato. I am JD's co-host. And before we get into today's show, which is jam-packed, I want to give you a little Mike Greenberg tease here. So listen to until the end of the show, and we have an opportunity for our listeners to make some cold, hard cash. That is actual United States currency, not Diskin dollars or Monopoly money. So listen to the end of the show, and we'll tell you how you can win that. This is a jam-packed show, and everybody who works at Power knows we have a contact center, right? But do they truly understand how that department functions as basically the central nervous system of the entire organization, right? So both JD and I thought there might be some unanswered questions our listeners have about that end of the Power universe and how they impact sales and marketing. So we brought on Jamie Doolin and Chris Jordan, both VPs of marketing and overlords of the contact center. For those of you who don't know Jamie and Chris, they're great guys. Come up and say hi the next time you see them at an event. Jamie is often wearing a colorful pastel golf shirt or a soccer jersey, while Chris typically looks like he's trying to sell you Wall Street's hottest new financial product. Guys, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having us. This is the smallest office I've been in since my first office in the contact center.
Yeah, which was a broom closet.
Yeah, it was a
right?
closet, so
Yeah.
I appreciate that. I'm sweating already.
Jamie, thanks for coming on the show.
I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having us, guys.
All right, so like I said, I don't want to BS too much because we got a lot to get into. And just real quick, full disclosure, this is actually the second recording of this show. The first time we tried this, I was sick. I was not bringing my fastball. I was pretty terrible. I think Jamie put JD to sleep. He actually hit his head in the table, had to get stitches. And Chris was unavailable off what?
You brought in the righty
Yeah,
here.
we brought
in the closer. What's this called? Closing time? You're welcome.
Ray, this all falls back to you.
No, you're
quite
right.
frankly.
You're right. I did not set the table well enough for you, Dooley. All right, so before we get into the specifics of the contact center, let's just dive into a brief history of time, right? Where did we start? Where are we now? And what were some of the pivotal points in between?
Yeah, so, from the beginning, we've always had people to confirm appointments, to issue appointments, and all of that. Previously, though, the standard just wasn't very high for who the company would allow to be in those roles. And over time, we have just continued to raise the bar with our standards and just the quality of people inside of the contact center and each of the roles has just gotten so much better. And I think is a real reason why we're actually having this pod today is because of how big of an impact the contact center has on the entire organization. And they do this, I think, without much fanfare and much awareness. So hopefully that changes today. But just the quality of people and the quality of product, so to speak, on what they're doing is just at the highest levels we've ever had.
And just sheer size, too. I think, I entered the contact center in 2007. I think there might have been 29 people total. Most were part-time employees. Fast forward to today, there's 219 people, all full-time employees. So just scope way, way different, way bigger. It's a big ball game.
And how did each of you guys get your starts in the contact center?
I think our starts were relatively similar. So we both started in the sales department. I sold for about 3 years. Jamie sold for a little over 1 year. But I think it was a good example of just where the business really needed development and growth. The marketing department was starting to really grow in 2007, 2008. The sales department had matured quite a bit. And the contact center was a place of need. And through conversations with Corey, really, it was us, taking a step into the contact center, which wasn't a traditional path at the time, but seeing it as an opportunity and seeing it as a place of need for the business and trying to help out any way that we can.
So again, everybody knows the contact center exists, right? But being at these regional satellite offices, your level of exposure is really limited to the phone, right? So I know recently, back in 2012, I guess recently over a 25-year timeline, back in 2012, you guys started this contact center shadow program, right? Where you were bringing in initially RCs and now a wider group of people into the contact center and really giving them this experience as to what goes on, a day in the life, what their mindset is, what the purpose is. How has that gone so far over the last couple of years?
It's certainly developed, but I think at the inception point, it was just an opportunity to really open up the hood and like showcase what does go on behind the scenes. Because as you mentioned, not a lot of people, certainly in satellite offices, really have like the full context of what's going on there. And it might be easy for people to think we're just good at playing ping pong and we take a lot of breaks and we kick up and we sit at our desks. Versus the reality is like, come on in, roll up your sleeves with us, and let's show you how all these departments work. And the thing has grown up into a lot of different sub-departments, but the common goal's there. So why don't we share it with everybody? And 4 years later, it's wide open doors now. Anyone can come in anytime. And like, that's a true invite from all of us. Like, come check us out. We're happy and proud to showcase what's going on there.
Yeah, and I think over time it's really matured too, to where now it's really an advertisement of the contact center, and we have the chance to do that. Every 2 weeks as a new sales team comes in, and quarterly for the marketers as they come in. But now you're not only something that hopefully the marketers and the sales reps look forward to, but it's certainly something that the contact center looks forward to, and it's something that increases our productivity once every 2 weeks as we are trying to put on a show and show people exactly what is going on in HQ day in and day out.
So as the remodeling consultants and the marketers come through the contact center, I imagine they all have, I guess, some consistent questions that come up that relate to their own job responsibilities and their own interests, right? So for RCs, I imagine they're pretty curious about the confirmation process and how the confirmation team is working with their end of a business in terms of getting those appointments and all that. Chris, can you take us a little bit through that?
Yeah, I mean, that is a common question that comes through, and I think it's a fair question. And I hope what they realize at the end of it is that appointment that comes through every single day isn't just a magical appointment that came through, but is something that has been worked really hard and scrubbed, and that we're trying to deliver them a product that we know is of the highest quality within our industry. But it's important for them to see exactly how thorough we are and how much we care about each one of the appointments, but also that we don't consider all appointments to be the right situation for them, and that we really take pride in finding the best opportunities and delivering them to them so that they can then take their skills to the home and hopefully help a homeowner.
It's also interesting now that about half the remodeling consultant population are marketing transfers. I think that's a different line of questioning that group has coming into this. And I think it might be easy for the marketing department to think about the confirmation process as like a hindrance. And then here in the vein of a remodeling consultant, you can actually see it's here as a help. And it's here as like an additional step to help processes and smooth processes. And to Chris's point, like, it's a good process.
So Jay, one question I have relating to the sales end of things. For an RC, they're just getting a text with the appointment information, go here, pitch this, all that, right? Do you feel like after they go through the contact center, there's a greater appreciation for what goes into making the appointment and the value of an appointment? And do you think that affects the RC mindset?
100%. I think sometimes we kind of take for granted a lot of the things that we're talking about today, but 91% of all of the appointments that get issued, we give a full presentation to. 91%. That's just amazing, right? That you're going to have both people home, that they're going to own their home. It's for work that we can do, and that they're able to have the time where we can give all of the information to give them an estimate. So 91% is a remarkable statistic. And, there are going to be times where you get an appointment and, they're both not home. And sometimes the homeowner might say, I told the person that we weren't going to both be here, and they said that was fine. And when you hear that, you kind of believe the homeowner, and you're like, how could this possibly happen? Why was I getting issued this appointment? But when you're in the contact center and actually listening to the phone calls, you will realize that never happens. Never would someone say that to us and we'd be like, oh, that's fine, no big deal, we'll still issue the appointment. Mm-hmm. So it allows you to see what is actually happening and how it can be a lot different than what you actually hear when you get to the appointment. And so I think it just gives you, more belief in the business, and I think that transparency, to what Doolin was kind of mentioning before, I think that's important, that people are seeing, hey, we're not afraid to have people come out, take a look at what we are saying, what we are doing on a daily basis, how many people are doing this, and how consistent that message is.
And what I'd add to that is, for the RCs who have been through this process in more recent times. Hopefully it's more fresh in your mind, and maybe more so for the RCs who haven't been here in a while or maybe never had the opportunity to come. The immediate feedback we get is of all. Like they're impressed with the system. They're appreciative of all the hard work that goes into that. And that's part of the experience here. And of course, their feedback is also that the contact center is the best part of their trip here by far.
No, that actually is true.
Really?
You know, like when I'm speaking, it's funny how Ray's like, oh, contact center.
With these guys?
Right. You know, also I think it's just the scale of it. You know, I don't think they're expecting to see 200 people. I think they're probably expecting to see 30 or 40 people. You know, I think, again, part of the things that kind of get forgotten is that we are issuing 800 to 900 appointments a day. You know, that 800 to 900 of them, we're making, you know, 2,500 appointments. So the scheduling department is scheduling 2,500 appointments. We're issuing 800 to 900. These are humongous numbers, and like the team that has been assembled, like is required to be able to do what they're doing.
Yeah, I think one of the cool things about learning the business is you get an understanding after a while that you know, the life cycle of an appointment is almost like a drive in football, right? And there's all these different plays or people that are responsible for different portions of it: setting the appointment, confirming it, selling it, PII, install, all that. And each way, it's just like you're getting first downs, right? And you're just keep moving the ball forward. But everyone has to do their job on that play, or else you mess it up for the next one, right? And you make it that much harder for the next person. And I think that really gets driven home when you shadow an operation with the contact center, because you get that appreciation of, wow, these guys are grinding and working really hard to put me in a good scenario. So speaking of that, for the marketers that come in, they work very closely with scheduling. So I imagine one part of it is just putting faces to names, right, and meeting the people that you're talking to on the phones. But for the other end of it, I imagine there might be a little bit of a surprise that their goals are more aligned than they might think walking in. Is that true, Jamie?
That's entirely true. And I think the entire contact center has been set up to mirror the marketing worlds that are territory specific, and that only just makes sense because, and if you're in the field in Chicago or you're in retail in Boston, you've got a tough job. You translate those conversations through the scheduling department. That's another tough job. But we want the end goal to be the same, and we realize like that these are conversations, on the front end, on the streets of Chicago or in the store in Boston. Like that's a whole different animal. But when they're getting funneled through the scheduling department, it ends up, we want it to be a straight up tag team and like a hand the baton over. We'll get it through that finish line. But yeah, so the end goals need to be the same. So like an estimate focus coming from an appointment need just makes sense to us.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about some of the preconceived notions that the reps might have coming into the contact center versus their takeaways afterwards, right? So, Chris, if you're thinking about that, what are some of the preconceived notions of the reps that are coming in about contact center life?
I think that the overall view might just be comfort, and one of the benefits that we do have, and something we talk about a lot, is we play in a dome, and we have the luxury of being in beautiful headquarters every single day where it's climate controlled, and we got our nice chairs and we have our computers. And I think there can be a sense that, it's a relatively relaxed, situation, and a little bit more of an even keel situation than what we have going on here. And I think that there's generally probably a bit of a misperception on what are the goals and what are the overall wants of people within the contact center. And the reality is that we only have one. Right, and everywhere else we have 14 different marketing offices, and we have 14 different sales offices, and in regional offices, the goals and the growth opportunities are pretty defined. Here at headquarters, we just happen to have additional opportunities, and the contact center is one of them. But I hope one of the things that people take away is that after they leave, they realize that everybody that works in the contact center is the exact same as they are. It's just a different opportunity here that we have than we don't in our regional offices currently.
And they're really good at ping pong.
But speaking of that, though, I imagine, coming in, right, if the preconceived notion is one of comfort, they want to come in and feel like these guys are legit. These guys are really good. And right, as the talent level is rising across the company and all the regional offices and marketing and sales, I imagine they want to feel like it's being reciprocated at HQ.
And I think they do. I think that's the part of the transparency and like opening up the hood. Like the feedback, that immediate feedback I was talking about is like oh my God, I can't believe what's actually going on there. I can't believe how hard that job is. I could not do that job. I could not actually sit down in that comfortable chair in the climate controlled zone and take calls back to back and deal with these conversations, one right after the other. And it's fast paced, it's large scale, it's marketing on crack.
And I think that's one of the beauties of Power, because the reality is all of them could. Right? They just haven't seen it before. They haven't been trained on it. They haven't gone through the experience that all of our people have. But we have the same conversation with all of our contact center agents about, I don't think I could ever market. I don't think I could ever be in a house until 11 o'clock and get somebody to say yes to, $15,000, $20,000, $30,000. And the reality is, yes, they could. They just haven't been through that training either. So I do think one of the things that people, come across is just recognizing that everything we do here is hard in its own way, but it's capable of being accomplished. It just has to be trained properly.
Right. And then another, like to Chris's point, where like they're seeing and hopefully feeling that these people are the same. It's the same person, just in a different position, and hopefully they can make a friend out of it. Chris mentioned earlier that we, and meaning like the staff here, love having these tours, love having these observation periods. At the very least, it's like a stacking of hands, and you meet a friend, and you share email addresses, you might exchange phone numbers, you might connect, and then you get to Mexico, and it's, oh my God, remember when we sat down together? Remember when I observed? Remember when I tried taking that phone call and I messed it up, and you helped me out? And it's just like an additional relationship build if you want to take that away from the visit here as well.
Real quick, you guys spoke about the scope of the contact center, right? How it's been growing.
Oh, by the way, having JD silent must be the best part of this podcast.
Whoa. Wait a second.
Oh. Jay, any?
Not up in here.
Right, not up in here.
What do you got?
Podcast number 1, I think, year to date.
The ratings will be very low.
All right, I think I've heard that from a former Apprentice host somewhere. All right, well, if we're talking about the scale and the scope of the contact center, Chris, what kind of action did Inside Sales see in 2017?
So it was the biggest year that Inside Sales ever had, which it should be, as the business obviously had its largest year. But one of the nice perks is that we get to support each one of the offices. And in net volume, Inside Sales will have done over $100 million for Power in 2017, and on pace to obviously eclipse that in 2018.
20%.
Yeah, reminder, like total net was 519, Diz?
520.
520?
We like to round up.
Yeah,
I just wanted
don't
Diz to chime
slight
in.
him.
I wanted him to chime in with like a correction.
Right. 520.
Okay.
So it's about 20% of the business's volume is coming from appointments generated. Now, obviously, all of those appointments could only be generated with the assistance of our marketing staff, who's building the database for us day in and day out. So it's a team effort, but 20% is coming from an Inside Sales appointment.
And just to break that down even further, given the amount of days Inside Sales works, that's $320,000 in volume every day.
Per day. Yep.
All right. Good work by you, Chris. Good work by Inside Sales.
That's the team.
One team, one fight. Done next.
Now, to do those kind of numbers, you got to be resilient. And as JD likes to say, Inside Sales is the league leader in no's. So what kind of mindset does it take to get through it?
Does JD like to say that? I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. They are the lead leader. Oh, that's correct. In second place behind the contact center would be all of the women that Ray Lodato has asked out.
Jay, it only takes one.
Right, correct.
You've met my beautiful wife.
I'm still confused. No idea.
Moving out of Inside Sales and into scheduling, Jamie, 2017, scheduling set 500,000 appointments. That's 1,388 a day. That's a lot of volume.
The scary part about that is they're pacing at over 1,900 a day this year. So, yeah, big ups to the scheduling department, and to Chris's point, can't do that without the local marketing departments doing their job as well. So, yeah, that scheduling ship is going to rise as the tide's rising around here. So, yeah, another big scalable department there.
And again, we talk about confirmation, but sales support always there to help our agents in the field, right? So what do you want the RCs to know about the sales support department?
I think it's interesting just how much is going on in that department. And I love the tour aspect of having the RCs here so they can actually see what's going on at the sales desk, because they're not just wearing a sales desk hat, they're also wearing a customer care hat. And if you were to look at their statistics and look at their reporting and their tracking, they're handling upwards of 70 different types of phone calls. About almost 30 different types of sales calls will come in, and almost 40 different types of customer calls will come in. So that's just a switchboard of chaos, and they handle it smoothly. They handle it with professionalism. They handle it with pride, and they handle it, most importantly. It's a nonstop ring over there, and it's
you really need to be educated to be able to handle the variety of issues that come through the phone lines.
I'd say the training there is intense. It's long, and it's a good 2 months before you can actually be really comfortable handling the variety of phone calls that you're about to take over at that desk. So that's certainly an unsung hero type of department, and like I said, they do that effortlessly every day.
Yeah, so I think the name of the department causes people to not understand what's actually happening. So when you call it sales support, you think they're only getting calls from the sales department when they're running late or there's no answer at the door and things like that, which of course they do get those phone calls. But they're also getting every other call coming into the business from customers, from anyone. Those calls are coming to that sales support. So not only are they helping the sales department, but they're helping the entire business, with the amount of volumes of calls that we're getting for the entire organization.
All right. Well, I think we've really touched on a lot here. Talked about close to it all. Before we wrap this up and get out of here, if there's anybody out there that's listening to this and or still listening, that wants to maybe pursue an opportunity in the contact center, what would you guys say to them? What are the things to keep in mind? How should they follow up?
I would just let them know that there's a big opportunity here within the business. And, oftentimes we pursue the things that are right in front of us. And I know in, marketing and sales, there's a very clear pathway, but that the contact center is a place for growth, and it's a place that people can develop, sales skills, communication skills, can learn more about, their ability to communicate in different ways with homeowners and with people in general. And that we've seen some really nice success come from the contact center. The majority of HQ ops is made of former contact center agents. Confirmation has all individuals that have done at least one other position within the contact center, so there's a ton of movement. But we also have 2 vice presidents in the business that started within the contact center. So Mike McAvoy, or the weatherman, started in scheduling, did that for a year, did inside sales
arguably
for a
the
year.
Greatest of all time.
Arguably the greatest of all time.
Not the greatest weatherman.
Yeah, not right.
Just to clarify.
Those rolling hills of Nashville really threw him off. Yeah.
And then, Bradley Veerling started in inside sales. So, it's not only a place where people can come and can grow their career of power, but it's a place that can also act as a springboard to bigger things as well. So, we'd encourage people to come and learn more about it and ask a ton of questions.
And off of that, I would just generally encourage people come to learn more about it. And I alluded to it earlier. It's an open door. The contact center is yours, and I say it to everyone out there listening. It's the marketing department's contact center. It's the sales department's contact center. It's the operations department's contact center. So feel free to come by anytime you want. We're happy to open up those doors and let you learn. I promise you won't have to spend much time with Chris. I'll guide you around that contact center to make it fun. So yeah, come on down.
All right, well, we'll get a couple
hungover.
housekeeping items. We're going to wrap up real quick before we get out of here. If you submit a question or comment to digital@powerhrg.com, you're going to get $50 from JD. That's the first person to do it. And then the 20th question or comment that hits the inbox of digital@powerhrg.com is going to get $100 from JD and J. Just one more time, that is U.S. currency, correct?
Correct. And a little note to our producer, at the beginning of the show, You mentioned it. I would like that part to be removed so that only the people that listened at the very end understand about this opportunity. Because, of course, the shadiness of people will stop listening after the first minute to just send the email. So we don't want that.
All right, well, there it is. All right, NJ, wrapping it up, your spotlight of the week. Who you got?
Spotlight of the week is going to be the Strong Island office. They really stepped up their game. They had a Triple Crown week to start off May, and I just see things really starting to move there. And I think they're going to be making a big push for Maryland, and could potentially have the most volume in the business at the end of this year.
I love it. Yeah, I think we should celebrate by hitting the tanning salon. Go on.
Yeah, and then right to 24-hour fitness right after that.
Get a nice pump in.
After the steroid cycle hits.
All right.
Beach season is here, Jay.
It is here. All right, well, that wraps up today's show. Apologies to Asher Rayfield. We ran out of time. We'll get him on next week's show. But other than that, ABC, always be closing.